Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Red Doctor Projections. My name is Lucas, and I have Eric here as always.
Hey guys.
And today we'll be taking a look at JHK's updated 2020 forecast for the 2020 Senate elections. Some stuff did change. It wasn't that drastic as a presidential election, but we did want to take a look at it. And now with that being said, let's get right into it. So, as I said earlier, it's not that much, but I think there were some drastic changes that, not too drastic, some pretty big changes that we need to take a look at here. Overall map, 54.4 to 45.6, not much change. I think this was about where it was before. Let's check. Yeah. About the same.
This is pretty more consistent because it's going to be harder for the Democrats to regain the control rather than for Joe Biden to win the presidential election per se.
So yeah, I think the last time we did this video was about 2 weeks ago. So if I can do math correctly, when was that? Today's the 30th, right? So we did that video about whatever 13 minus 7 is. That is
6.
Yes. So we did it about here. Oh, so there was a lower chance of the Democrats. So okay, so it's about a 4% difference. 3%, 4%. Average seats. Wow. Okay, yeah. Obviously, this is gonna be a really close race come November. Oh yes. Okay. So now it is really split 50-50. I don't remember what it was before, but I don't think we don't agree with every single thing on here. So I think it's important that we discuss them. Let's start with the two states that are probably going to go to the Democrats. Interestingly enough, wow, Arizona has a higher chance of going to the Democrats than Colorado. Interesting. Eric, why don't you discuss Arizona?
Yep. So again, this is Mark Kelly and Martha McSally. We did say we made a whole video on it. You can go check it out. How Mark Kelly has a pretty good chance of winning, and JHK is definitely in the right here. And they're right in the way that they post this image. 52 to 45, that seems pretty fair to me. I'd actually maybe give the graph even maybe a little more to Mark Kelly. But other than that, this seems pretty fair to me.
Wow, that's interesting. I would actually put this one as a lean state. Not exactly likely yet, but it's getting there. It's in between lean and likely for me. Wow, it actually dipped. Huh, interesting. Whoa.
Yeah, it's like a staircase now. So he has a pretty good shot.
So this one actually does have a pretty drastic change. We did this one around here. So we did see a big jump for Mark Kelly. So that is definitely interesting to look at. And I think things have changed a bit with there are rising coronavirus cases in the state of Arizona now. So maybe that's one of the contributing factors to why Mark Kelly has a now bigger shot at winning the seat. And again, Martha McSally is very unpopular. It's not going to be that hard it's definitely always difficult to unseat an incumbent, but it's definitely easier to unseat one that is unpopular. As Ethan Bloggy put it, McSally's on the back burners right now, but Mark Kelly can't get comfortable enough yet because we don't know for sure if he's going to actually win. Polling shows deep up by 8.3. That's actually really decent. 8.3, that's well into the likely characterization here.
Yep.
If this holds on election day, this is going to be pretty good for the Democratic Party here. That's going to be a pretty big victory. But of course, we cannot rely always on polling because there's always going to be bias here. So now we're going to actually head back to the national forecast. So actually, we'll head to Colorado. Today is the Colorado primaries. We'll actually be live streaming it tonight at 9 p.m. Eastern time. So make sure you stay tuned for our live stream at 9 p.m. Eastern time to join us as we watch John Hickenlooper go up against Andrew Romanoff. And speaking of Hickenlooper Romanoff, the predicted winner is John Hickenlooper, but there is a relative chance that Andrew Romanoff can win. essentially what happened recently was Hickenlooper got caught up in some ethics commission stuff in the state of Colorado. Hickenlooper is the former governor before 2019. He's going to be facing off against Andrew Romanoff, who is the current Speaker of the House of Representatives in the state of Colorado. So obviously he has that experience, that good experience there, that will definitely help him. And I think he is a pretty solid candidate to go up against John Hickenlooper. Again, Hickenlooper is leading the polls by about double digits, so it's not going to be that much of a surprise if Hickenlooper does win, because he probably will win. But we're going to take a look at it. Anyways, Cory Garner currently right now is one of the most unpopular senators in the nation. But the reason being that this is Colorado. This has become a pretty Democratic state. In 2014, when Cory Gardner won, he won in a red wave year, so that definitely helped in 2014. So it's going to be relatively difficult for him to hold this seat. Many pundits do put this one as the most vulnerable GOP seat this election cycle, and I'm kind of surprised that this is not more than the Arizona race, because I do think that Hickenlooper has a better chance of winning the Senate seat than Hickenlooper does. Hickenlooper has a higher chance of winning the Senate seat than Kelly does. One, he has experience. One, he has two, he has name recognition because he ran for president. So I think Hickenlooper has a higher shot at than Mark Kelly does. But nevertheless, this is a pretty high chance. Usually on our forecasts, we give John Hickenlooper a likely of winning, while we give Mark Kelly a lean. But again, Arizona seat is moving more and more towards that category. And now look at this, 17.5%. We did receive a comment saying that the pollings are weighted. So that's definitely important that we remember that. So essentially what they're doing is they're going to be putting more weight on those A+ pollster rate polls that are more reliable from the past. So that 17.5 is a huge number. That is solid. That's within our solid characterization here. So
Yep.
Expert ratings, yes, they might be a little bit outdated, but we'll frequently check out these expert ratings that we take a look at to make sure that everything's kind of up to date. 2.8, I think most sources put this one as lean. I don't think they've updated that yet. Anyway, let's head back to the national forecast here, and we'll talk about another state the state that changed probably the most since last time was North Carolina. We'll take a look at that right now. Let me just see. Yeah, that was a bit of change. All right, Eric, why don't you discuss the state of North Carolina?
Yeah, and we also did an in-depth video about this race. So if you want to take a look at that, go right ahead. You'll get up to speed on that race pretty thoroughly. And there's no doubt that North Carolina is one of the closest races of this whole election, and essentially regaining the majority will come down to the state. Because just look at this.
Yeah, I think it will be the closest. Yeah, I definitely.
Because just look at these numbers: 50.2 to 48.8. That is 1.4%. That's less than 2% in the lead for Democrats. And if we take a look at the graph, the day-by-day graph, it was really close. It was, and the Republican was in the lead initially, but then again, this coronavirus took a toll on Republicans for the most part, and Cunningham did take the lead. And now look at that staircase over here. This is definitely reinforcing his position here against Tom Tillis. So it's going to be very close, but we're putting this in our regular prediction somewhere in between toss-up and tilt D.
Mm-hmm. Yes. As we'll show later, polls do show that Cunningham does have an edge, 2.5. But obviously fundamentals, this is like about the characteristics of the state, how like partisan it is.
And also, Tillis is an incumbent, so that fundamentally helps him,
Yeah, I guess that's correct. Although he is not the most popular senator, there is always incumbency advantage here. Yeah, but North Carolina generally is a little bit more Republican than most states. But there is a pretty decent African-American electorate here. So that definitely might help the Democrats. And what also might help the Democrats is that it's a presidential election year. So some of the people who might be going out and voting for Joe Biden could also be voting for the Democrat on the Senate race level. So I think that's it for North Carolina. This one's the one that I think changed the most of the ones we've seen. Interesting. So, all right. So, wow. Okay. So apparently Gene Shaheen has a larger chance than Gary Peters. John James, I don't think he has that much of a chance, but I think Gary Peters will secure the seat pretty well. And I think let's discuss 4 more. Let's discuss Maine, Iowa, Montana, and Kansas. I'll start with Montana.
All right.
Montana, I think Bullock has a stronger chance than just 33%. 33 is like a third. I think it's definitely more. And the reason because is he is very popular. And I think according to one of our comments again, from Zachary, he said that many is it called Montanians? Montans? I think it's Montans. Anyways, I think a lot of Montans, correct me if I'm saying that wrong, but a lot of them do tend to support Steve Bullock. And oftentimes in Montana, they often split their ticket, meaning that they kind of vote for the Republican on the presidential level, but they sometimes do vote for the Democrats on the state level. So keeping that into mind, and keeping in mind that Steve Daines is only a moderately popular Republican incumbent, I think Bullock has a stronger chance. And we did do an in-depth video on this one actually yesterday. And polling does show a bit of a lead here, although I do think that the Republicans are pushing pretty hard on Montana, because I know people have been getting a lot of ads asking people to vote for Steve Daines and donate money to him. So I do think he's pushing pretty hard. They're pushing pretty hard on this. But look at how consistent this is. This has not changed since. The only time it really changed was the beginning of May. So Black Lives Matter didn't really impact this that much. And except for this little hump here, it stayed consistent. I think this was kind of when Trump's approval rating was pretty high with coronavirus. Obviously, that went kind of down, but that's really interesting to see. Fundamentals, yes, this is a pretty Republican state. Experts, I think many do put this one as a lean D or toss-up. 4.1. I think that's, again, a little bit too generous to the Republicans. I would give this one about, it's a tilt for the Republicans for me. Because I do think that Steve Daines has an edge here, but definitely not 4 points. And I don't think he has 66% chance of winning. I think it's definitely lower than that. I would give it around maybe 55-45. No, actually, it's pretty close to 50-50, but I think 55-45 is a good number to use here. All right, Eric, why don't you discuss the state of Maine?
Yep, so let's take a look at what they have here. So it's 49.1 to 47.8 for Sarah Gideon. It's going to be pretty close. Although Susan Collins, the incumbent here, has the incumbency advantage, super unpopular. At least at the moment, she is super unpopular. It's not looking good for her. Sarah Gideon is just emerging candidate that the Democrats really like, and they do consider her a better alternative because the unpopularity of Susan Collins is just it's getting too much for this area. Let's take a look at day by day, see if something changed there.
Whoa,
yeah,
okay.
so we see this gradual increase for Sarah Gideon bit by bit, and there was one pretty significant hump in the beginning of June. And then it's been pretty consistent from then on.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take a look at what's lower. Or let's take a look at the seats. Yeah, it's pretty close.
And I'll take a look at the polling and funding data. So not funding, but I mean fundamentals. Polling does show Sarah Gideon leading. I think Sarah Gideon does have a pretty good amount of experience as the Speaker of the House of Maine. Fundamentals. Now you got to remember here, in the state of Maine, when you're electing senators anywhere, they're not just representing a certain district; they're representing the entire state. Maine has 2 congressional districts. One does lean to the Republicans. One does lean to the Democrats. I'm sorry, I think one of them is pretty solid for the Democrats. That is District 1 because that's more urban. Now, in general, it does lean to the Democrats. Maine usually does go to the Democratic candidates, such as in 2016, Hillary Clinton was able to carry Maine all states. And I just think that Susan Collins may be a bit too moderate for them. Like, they might not appreciate how she's kind of crossing party lines sometimes. So that could be a factor why they don't really like her anymore. That's why she's unpopular. Let me remind you this. She used to be the most popular senator a few years ago. So that things have clearly changed for her. Looking at projected vote now, 1.3 makes sense. I would give this one tilt D. So I think that definitely makes sense here. Now we're going to head back to the National Senate forecast. And I'll talk about the state of Iowa. In the state of Iowa, we have Joni Ernst, the current senator, who's not that popular here, and Teresa Greenfield. This is very close. This will be probably one of the closest. Although this does have a slight edge for the Republicans, there is a chance that's still there that Democrats can pick the seat up. Oh, look at the change here.
That
middle
really
of June,
narrowed down.
Yeah, but it has been increasing for Joni Ernst, though. If you look, let's look closer. So we do see kind of a drop for Joni Ernst in about the middle of June, but kind of increased for Joni Ernst and kind of dipped down for Teresa Greenfield. Iowa is kind of more, it's considered to be a swing state, but I do believe it is more, oh wow, look at that. I think that it is a bit swung to the right a tiny bit. We know the JHK forecast did give the state of Iowa to Joe Biden, which I don't think will happen, because I do think that President Trump will carry the state. But if the Republicans are going out and voting for Donald Trump, and the Democrats are going out and voting for Joe Biden, they might also be voting for the people on their ticket too. So we could see turnout going up this year, because people do usually pay more attention to I blanked out. They do pay more attention to the presidential elections. And polling does show Teresa Greenfield leading 2.4%, but we got to look at these fundamentals. And we know that the state of Iowa is more Republican than some of the other swing states here. And the expert opinion, this is like sources like Cook Political, 538 and it dropped. There's Sabato's Crystal Ball. They're like these. I think most do put this one as either lean or likely Republican, so it kind of makes sense why this is so high here. But projected vote 1.1 does give Joni Ernst a lead. In my opinion, I do think that the Republicans will carry this, but very slimly. I give this one tilt R to lean R at this point. Eric, what do you think about that?
Yeah, that kind of makes sense. And also, in general, Iowa is one of the states that is leaning more and more to the right. So it does make sense that not polling, but fundamentals give a slight edge to Joni Ernst. And as you said, she's also the incumbent, so that's also helping her. And she's not that unpopular, but she's also not that popular, so it's kind of neutral for her. And in that case, that's fine in her case. Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see when it comes on election day. This one's one that we're definitely going to pay close attention to. Now, Eric, why don't you discuss the state of Kansas? Let's remind our viewers that the primary has not happened yet, but they didn't even give names yet. But the Democratic candidate is the nominee will probably be, I think they said Barbara Boyer, and I do think that people do consider her to be a pretty solid candidate.
Okay. So as I was saying, so we Chris Kobach is as we said earlier, has been caught up in quite a few scandals, and if he does become the nominee, that's kind of gonna hurt him. We kind of said if he becomes the nominee, Kansas becomes lean, and if he doesn't, it's going to be likely. So at the moment, this is actually kind of close. But it really depends on who becomes the nominees for each of these parties.
Right, so I think 80% is correct. I think I read that at the moment. It does look like that Marshall might defeat Kobach, but we really can't tell yet. So, wow, same pattern as before. We see that little dip, but then a little bit gradual increase for the Republicans here. Polling, I think, was pretty close in the state. That's why it's only a 1.3 lead here. Fundamentals, obviously, this is Kansas. This is a very Republican state. 10.1 makes sense here. They haven't voted for a Democrat in a pretty long time. Although they did elect Governor Laura Kelly in 2018. And who was she against? Chris Kobach. And that kind of does show how unpopular he is. For Kansas to elect a Democratic governor over Chris Kobach. That's a bit like the Doug Jones, Roy Moore situation in Alabama. Experts 7.9. I think everyone probably put this one as likely or lean. And projected vote 7.7. That's on our likely margin. Although it will end up depending on what happens in the primary, which we will probably also live stream. And with that being said, that is the end of this video. And actually, let's discuss a little bit about our live stream tonight. As I said earlier in this video, we will be having a live stream at 9 p.m. Eastern Time to show the Colorado primaries. We'll be taking a look at the Democratic Senate nomination there, primary there. Utah, we'll see if Huntsman, I think that's his name, Huntsman will get back his governor seat, see if he can win the primary there. And Oklahoma, not that much going on, but we'll still take a look at it anyways. That's the end of the video for today. Thank you all so much for watching. If you like this video, please hit the like button. And if you like our content, please subscribe. We'll see you in our live stream later tonight.
See ya.
Wow, it feels weird to say that.